What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing good and having a great day. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at something that loads of you guys have been requesting, and that's to take a look at exactly what websites I use for stock market analysis. So we'll be going through exactly what websites I use to find winning stocks and funds in the first place, features that will let you look at investment opportunities in a lot more detail, as well as tools that I use on a day-to-day basis to keep track of live market data and track my investments performance. Now, my investment strategy is focused on more long-term investing more than anything else, but I do feel these specific websites that I use can be incredibly helpful with many areas of stock market investing. It's also worth noting that these platforms and features that I've chosen are all entirely free, which is something I always look for just to save money. But what this means is there may be platforms and websites out there that are slightly more fine-tuned and have a bit more of a better range of features. However, the benefit of the ones that I've chosen is that they're all entirely free and aren't going to cost you a thing, which is something I really value. Now, before we get into it, if you are new around here, welcome to the channel. This really is the place to be for all the most relevant information on UK finance. So whether you're looking for the best bank accounts or credit cards out there at the moment, as well as content on investing, making and saving money, this really is the place to be. So if you're not already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and click that bell so you never miss a video. And I know it is a bit cheeky asking before the video's even started, but I'd really appreciate it if you could smash that like button, as it does really help me out with the YouTube algorithm and basically allows YouTube to share these videos to more people that might find them useful or interesting. And as always, just as a quick disclaimer, this is in no way financial advice. I'm simply just outlining information and giving my honest opinions and thoughts. Always make sure to do your own research and due diligence when it comes to your finances. But with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. Okay, so just before we get looking at exactly what websites I use, I'm just going to quickly run through why I think it's so important to use third-party websites when it comes to investing in the stock market. So with any investment platform or brokerage, they'll always have some sort of information about the stocks that you're investing in, but more often than not, it's usually quite limited. And sometimes if they do have really good high-quality information, it's usually going to cost you a monthly charge to use that platform. But for me, I find it incredibly valuable to be able to get all that information that you need to make an informed decision while investing in the stock market, but completely for free. Okay, so the first website that I use, which I think is invaluable, is Trustnet. So for me, one of the areas I focus my investing on is actively managed funds. And I find Trustnet one of the better ways to scan through funds and stocks out there to basically narrow down which are the most profitable and could offer the most opportunity. So I'll just show you now how I actually use it to scan for different investment opportunities out there, like investment trusts or open-ended investment companies or funds. So the way I use it is by using the Find Fund feature. And so you can basically narrow it down into what category you're looking to invest in, so whether it's an ETF or investment trust or whatnot. So for this one, let's go with investment trusts. And then for this example, let's narrow it down to North America. So now you can see a whole load of investment trusts have popped up. So for me, the first thing I like to do is narrow it down into 5-year performance. So if you click the 5-year percent, it then prioritizes the order to the best performers over the last 5 years in terms of returns. So let's look at this one that's top of the list, the Canadian General Investments. So when it comes to the yearly percentage, it basically just means how much percent it's up over that time period. So over a 5-year period, this particular one's up 203%. Now, obviously looking at it over a 5-year period isn't everything. Other things are important, like the yield, which is essentially the dividend that you'll be paid out if you invest in this opportunity, as well as the performance over a shorter period of time. So if we switch it back to the 1 year of performance, you can see the orders flipped around again. And at the top is the Bailey Gifford US Growth Trust. And over 1 year, it's increased by 126%, which I think is pretty impressive. But obviously you can see it hasn't got any data for the 3 and 5 years because the fund was actually only launched back in 2018, so the data just simply isn't there. But looking at these yearly returns is one of the first things I look at when looking for an investment opportunity. And I find it really useful that you can quickly just sort the sector into the best performers. So you could also use this in a more simplified way if you're not bothered about which sector you're investing in, and maybe just scan through what are the best performing funds. So if we do that and just look at investment trusts, so you can see the top performer over a 5-year period when it comes to investment trusts is the JP Morgan China Growth and Income Trust. So to me, that long-term growth looks incredibly appealing, so I might want to make a note of that one and research that one further. So I find Trustnet also really useful when it comes to researching these individual funds. So let's use this one as an example. So we can see on this page, it gives you a whole load of information from like the fund objectives to the performance, and you can see its performance quickly compared to the other investment trusts in the same sector. So you can see with this one, it's pretty much outperformed the others consistently over a long period of time. And over the last year or so, it's done exceedingly well. And basically from just scrolling through this page, you can find the bulk of the useful information that you might want to look at. From the financials to who's managing the fund and what the top holdings are. So from this one, you can see its biggest holding is 10 cents. Then second is Alibaba, and Alibaba is basically the equivalent of Chinese Amazon, so it might then be useful to research these individual companies. When it comes to investment trusts, I also find it incredibly useful to look at the premium discount compared to net asset value, as I find it a useful indicator as to whether a stock might be undervalued or overvalued. So with this one, over the last 5 years or so, you can see it's been consistently trading below its net asset value, but over the last year, it's actually started trading above its net asset value, which could be an indicator that it's overvalued. One of the things I also find incredibly useful in Trustnet is the ability to basically research the individual fund managers. So as fund managers tend to move around from time to time, it's useful to see what the individual fund manager's performance has been throughout their career. So we can see for this one, the fund manager is currently Howard Wang. So if we click on him, we can see what funds he's actively managing at the moment and what funds he's managed in the past. So it might be useful to look at the fund performance whilst he was a part of that fund. Now with some of the fund managers, you can actually get a lot more information than this, which is really useful, but sometimes it can be limited like this one. But if we go onto the fund managers section of Trustnet, we can see a lot more information, and we can use another fund as an example. So one of the other ones we were looking at was the Baillie Gifford US Growth Trust. So with this one, you can see the same information, but if we come down to the fund managers, so this one's co-managed by Gary Robinson. So if we click on him, we can see a bit more information about his previous history. So here we can see all the same information we saw for the last guy, but if we now click on fund managers and then go on to A to Z manager fact sheet, he actually comes up and has a profile on here, which is really useful to see. So if we type his name, there he is, name pops up, and then we get a whole profile of him showing a lot more useful information. So the first thing I like to look at is the annualized returns. So for him, on average, spanning across the different funds that he's worked at, he has made 24.5% in annual returns, which I think is pretty good. And then if you scroll down, you can also see a whole load of other useful information. But one of the things I like to specifically look at is how he's performed against the market. So over 7 years, he's outperformed the market in 6 of those and only underperformed in 1 year, which I think seems pretty promising. So I think from this small amount of research on Trustnet, you can actually get quite a good idea as to whether or not he's a solid fund manager. Now, obviously there are loads of other features out there on Trustnet which are also really useful, but these are just a couple that I think are particularly helpful for my personal investment strategy, which might be useful to you guys. So the next website that I think is really good is Hargreaves Lansdown. Now, Hargreaves Lansdown are actually a brokerage that you can buy and sell shares with. I personally don't use them, but I find their website to be really useful in terms of the information that they have on different funds and stocks. So if we look at this same fund that we just looked at on Trustnet, the Baillie Gifford US Growth Trust, we can see it's got a lot of the same information that Trustnet has, but it's just displayed slightly differently. And sometimes I just find it easier to use this website in terms of how they display the data, and also just simply navigating the website, as Trustnet has some really useful stuff on there, but sometimes it's a bit clunky to get around. But one of the things I find incredibly useful on Hargreaves Lansdown is the ability to compare different stocks, funds, and indexes all in one. So if we go onto the charts and performance tab, you can see by default it has the share price compared to the net asset value, which is really useful to see, but also you can just add comparisons to different funds by just searching the name or looking through different sectors or adding different indexes. So for this one, let's add an index to just basically see how it's doing. So let's go with the NASDAQ 100, which is US tech based, which will probably be made up of some of the same stocks that this actively managed fund has picked. So we can see over a 1 year period, it significantly outperformed the NASDAQ 100, over a 3 year period as well. And then over a 5 and 10 year period, it's sort of a different story because obviously the fund hasn't been around as long as the NASDAQ index has. So the NASDAQ has obviously achieved more growth during that time period. With this as well, you can also compare it against different funds or ETFs, which may be structured differently. So for this example, let's add a similar unit trust, which should have similar performance. So let's go with the Baillie Gifford America Unit Trust. So you can see both over a short period of time and a longer period of time, it's basically had similar performance. But actually this investment trust that we're looking at has actually done better. And obviously again, over a 10-year period, it's not been around as long, so it hasn't had the same performance. So with Hargreaves Lansdown, it doesn't offer anything that's particularly groundbreaking, I don't think, but it does just have some useful information, and I find it really useful to be able to compare these differently structured investment opportunities, all in the one comparison chart. Alright, so next on the list is Yahoo Finance. I honestly find Yahoo Finance one of the most useful platforms out there, as it has a massive amount of useful information spanning across the whole world of investments. From what I've found, you can find pretty much any investment opportunity, and it's listed on Yahoo Finance, and you'll be able to get some level of information about it. So with certain stocks, there's a huge amount of information when it comes to the financials. It is, however, a little bit limited with certain stocks. But one of the features I use most with Yahoo Finance is just being able to use it as a way to keep track of my investments on a day-to-day basis. Because if you set up an account, you can create as many watch lists as you want and include different funds and stocks into your watch list, and it all links seamlessly to the phone app. So whether you're at home or on the go, you can check your phone or computer to see whether or not your investments are up or down on the day, or other investments that you're looking to invest in maybe. And like I said, they have updated pricing on all these stocks worldwide. Now it is worth noting that with this one, not all stocks are actually getting live data on Yahoo Finance. So for example, the Nasdaq and Dow Jones actually do get live data, but the London Stock Exchange is actually 20 minutes delayed. If you invest in other markets to these, I'll leave a link down below in the description where you can see exactly what the delay is depending on which stock exchange you're investing in. Now, as well as these features, one of the other things I find incredibly useful with Yahoo Finance is the actual charting. So if we just look at Tesla as an example, it's listed on the Nasdaq, so it'll be getting live data when the market's actually open. But what Yahoo lets you do is actually add a whole load of indicators into the chart to basically give you an idea of when might be a good buying opportunity. So you can set it up how you like, but one of the first things I like to do is change the graph from line to candles, and then also turn on extended hours trading, so you can actually see all the data when the market's trading during extended hours. So some other things I find really useful is the ability to add indicators. So let's just add a simple moving average. So if we go on moving average, 180 days, simple. So you can add exponential and other different types of averages, but let's just go with simple for now. And let's just save that. So now you can see we have that simple moving average line showing on our chart. And if you go into different time breakdowns, you can see all that information still showing through, which is really useful. You can also add things like MACD and RSI, which will be added below. But because I'm using a small laptop screen at the moment, we'll turn that one off because it basically just makes it harder to read what's going on. One of the other things you can actually do is add comparisons, just like in Hargreaves Lansdown. So let's just add the S&P 500 just to see what that does. So over a 1 year period, let's see how that's done. So over a 1 year period, obviously you can see Tesla's massively outperformed the S&P 500, which is to be expected. Now honestly, I don't use the comparison too much myself in Yahoo Finance, but it can be a useful feature. So that just goes into a couple of the things I personally like with Yahoo Finance, but obviously it does offer a whole range of other features as well, which can be really useful. And it is worth noting that Yahoo Finance can be a little bit clunky sometimes with the charting system, but you have to remember that it is a free website that gives you live data, which is really useful. And sometimes with other platforms out there, you might have to pay a hefty monthly charge to get information like this. Okay, so next on the list is Google Finance. So Google Finance is actually one of the most basic platforms out there, but basically what I use it for is quick comparisons and getting live prices for the UK stock market. So unlike with Yahoo, which is 20 minutes delayed in terms of pricing when it comes to the London Stock Exchange, Google Finance is actually live, which I find is really useful to just have open when buying and selling shares to make sure you're getting a good price. So you can simply just search up whatever it is you're looking for and it will give you the live price, refreshing pretty instantly. Now you can see the charts are a little bit basic in comparison to some of the things you can do on other websites, but I still think it's really useful to be able to get that live data. And one of the other things I find really useful with Google Finance is the ability to compare different stocks really quickly. So simply while we're on this Tesla stock, you can just add compare at the bottom and you can just simply click and add different stocks you want to compare it to. So for example, we've just added Apple, so you can see the two lines and how they compare to each other over the day period, over 5 days, over a month, over a year, and it's just really useful to see this information. So you can basically just add a whole load of different stocks really quite quickly to get an idea of how well they're actually doing in comparison to some other things out there. Okay, so the final one on the list is Trading 212. Now, the feature I want to go into is one very small specific thing that I do actually find really useful, and it is offered by other investment platforms and brokerages out there, but I actually use Trading 212 as one of my brokerages, so it works nice and seamlessly within my investment strategy. Now, the Trading 212 website platform in itself, I don't think is actually that brilliant, and the range of indicators that they offer are really quite limited, but at least you do get actual live data, which is really useful. Now, by default, your platform will probably look somewhat like this, which is fine, but it's not brilliant. But the thing that I find really useful is by simply just changing the pointer to the crosshair tool, you can simply click and drag to a previous high or low point to see how much percentage change that actually might be. So for example, with this Netflix chart, if I bought in right now and the stock pulled back to previous highs, I'd stand to make just under 9% in profit. But equally, if it pulls back to a previous low point, I'd stand to lose just under 9%. Now, I don't honestly think this is a groundbreaking feature, and Trading 212 definitely aren't the only platform that offer this. However, it's just incredibly useful to be able to see how much in terms of percentage you stand to make or lose without having to do any calculations. And honestly, if you don't use Trading 212 as an investment platform, it's probably not worth getting just for this feature. But if you do use them to invest, this is one feature I'd definitely recommend using. Okay, so that basically covers the list, and these are all the platforms that I use consistently to analyse different things within the stock market. Some other notable mentions that I personally don't use all that much but can be really useful include the Apple Finance app on iPhone. This is another one that's just simply really good for giving you live data and prices, and also allows you to set up quick watch lists to see how your investments are doing. Also, websites like the AIC and Morningstar can be really useful if you don't get on with Hargreaves Lansdown or Trustnet. Another one I quite like is TradingView, which allows you to set up charts in a similar way to on Yahoo Finance, but it's just a bit more seamless and well presented. But to actually get the most out of TradingView, it comes at a monthly charge. But there we have it, that basically covers everything for today, guys. I really hope this was useful in hopefully learning about some free tools out there when it comes to investing and analysing the stock market. And also to get an insight into my investment approach and the way I analyse investment opportunities. Now, if you did make it this far, thank you so much for watching. And if you did enjoy the video or feel like you learned something new in any way, I'd really appreciate it if you could smash that like button, as it does really help me out with the YouTube algorithm and basically allows YouTube to share these videos to more people that might find them useful or interesting. And if you are new around here, this really is the place to be for all the most relevant information on UK finance. So if you're looking for the best bank accounts, credit cards, as well as content on investing, making and saving money, this really is the place to be. So if you're not already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and click that bell so you never miss a video. And as always, do let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. What do you guys think of these websites and platforms that I use? Have you heard of them already, or do you use them yourself? Or maybe do you think there are some tools that I'm missing which could help with my investing? I'd love to know, so make sure to drop your thoughts down below in the comments. And if you do have any questions or feedback for me, make sure to just drop them down below in the comments as well, and I'll make sure to respond to all of you. But with all that being said, take it easy guys, and keep saving.